What's up guys, Jordan from Bennett's Customs. We're back on another episode and we are working on Kyle's coupe again. If you guys watched the previous episode, you would have seen that we started to create sort of the main profile for our sub rail. And that was basically gonna be something that was gonna sit, follow the contour and the shape of the top of the 32 frame. And then we were gonna make two of those and kind of box it all in for being able to channel that Model A body. Since going away, I've completely changed my mind. And you know, thank you to Brad at the motor car company. So we started bouncing some ideas back and forth. And yeah, he kind of gave me an idea that is a lot more simpler and kind of just a nicer aesthetically sort of option. The floor itself and the body, it would be really neat to sort of make a really nice one-piece floor with a rolled edge, and that's something that kind of would catch that body when we go to channel it. We're actually just gonna get the cardboard out. We're gonna kind of make a template of the whole setup here. We're gonna cut that out of sheet metal. Once we got all of our little markings and everything laid out, we'll do some bead rolls and get everything sort of in. So we'll just see how far we can get through this episode. But ultimately, having a full floor kind of bolted down to this before the body even goes on is sort of where I want to go with it. So anyways, let's get into it. So we just have a roll of sort of template paper, I'll call it. What we just want to do is lay this out, get some magnets on here, try and get a relatively nice, clean profile of the whole thing, and then sort of we know exactly what we'd like to do for the floor itself. All right, I can't find any good magnets. Don't know where mine are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm kind of using the old dirty finger trick, which a lot of you guys have seen before, where I just run my finger over the hole, and this hole has a threaded insert, and these are for obviously your body mounting. So now that I know where that is, I can punch that, and I'll actually just bolt through to hold this cardboard down as we sort of go up and over the end. We're just gonna travel up and find our other ones here. Maybe I can organize something. It's ourselves. So it's nice to capitalize on the free shipping. Nice. Damn, this is a sick fucking frothing on this already. The mojo's back. Oopa. Little nacho. Little nacho cheese. Wow, I've really made this look definitely on the angle. So good. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our cardboard laid out and all of our body mounts exactly where they're gonna be, and that little 3/8 leather punch kind of really helped locate exactly where they are. So, you know, when we go to transfer this onto our sheet metal that we're gonna use for the floor, we know exactly where those are gonna be sitting. Let's start trimming the excess off the edge, then we'll get underneath there with our Sharpie and start to kind of make some ideas and lines where we want stuff. And then, yeah, we should be able to see through with those, and then we can basically take this setup here and we'll start to transfer it onto a sheet of steel. gonna jump under there now. I'm gonna trace out a couple of areas. And then maybe we'll try and kind of fine tune this area a little bit more while it's still on here. And any other little bits and pieces we want to do, sorry. And then eventually we're gonna get this off and get it onto some steel. So I think, you know, we can get this out of one sheet, but it's going to be really tricky to sort of move it around when we're going to want to sort of roll that back edge and put all of our bead rolls and sort of our lines and stuff in. It's just going to be too big of a sheet, I think, in order to kind of run it through the bead roller and that. So I'm thinking I may even make it into 3 pieces, and I'll run sort of a kind of a step down so that we can just overlap them, and then I can just sort of tack them together. And I think that'd be a little bit easier just to sort of work with the panels too. But we'll make it in areas where we know we can kind of fudge it a little bit so you don't maybe see it from underneath, or in an area where it's just a little bit stronger. But what we'll do is we'll flip this over, and then we can kind of see where all of our lines are. So I think that is good to go. So if we roll this out, you can kind of see what we are trying to create. So you can see this is obviously the outline of that tubular K-member. And then this is sort of where the transmission is going to go. So we need to sort of clean all this edge up and everything afterwards. You know, if we wanted to break this down into 3 parts, right here, this is sort of our, if I can kind of make a nice uniform-ish thing, which we can create. Could even do a thing just on that, but this is for our brakes. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, we need to kind of have an area or a plate that's going to be fixed down that we can remove to be able to get to the brake fluid. So we need to take that into consideration when, you know, making our lines and stuff like that. So what we could do is on this center here, we could cut this directly across, and that would be our one piece here, and then this one could be our second piece. And then that way, you know, that's obviously a lot easier to navigate through the bead roller and that as well. So I think what we could do is I could sort of re-outline these out a little bit smoother, and then we could actually cut these all out, and then we could lay this on to our sheet of steel, and then we could trace these out, and then we know that these are the areas that we'd like to sort of put a step into. We could run sort of a radius like that, so we can come in with our step. Radius would kind of come in like that, again there as well. Maybe not such a large radius, but you get the idea. We just want to make sure that the floor is kind of replicated to the rest of the frame and looks like, you know, it's supposed to be there. So the throat depth on that thing is obviously not as large as you want it to be when you're spinning a lot of area around, and you don't want to be stuck where you kind of running the bead roller through and then you're kind of hooped. All right, so we've just pulled out the bead roller, and this is going to be, we have our offset dies from Eastwood in here, and we're going to use these to sort of create our pattern that is going to follow that tubular K-frame that I've kind of mentioned quite a few times. So biggest thing though, I don't have a table for this, so I need to fabricate up something really quick that will allow us to, myself, to kind of sit here, have a nice light so it's very well lit. And once that's done, then we can start to lay out our paper templates onto the main sheet that we are using, and then we can get busy bead rolling, and then we can lay it down and see what it's going to look like. Now that this plate, so you can see there's nothing there, there's no seam for anything to catch. It is exactly the same as that. So it's actually just slightly higher, which is perfect. But what that's going to allow is when, you know, I'm kind of have a sheet on here and I'm spinning it around, nothing will be able to hinder it. So what I want to do is just clamp this down. I can get under there, and I'm probably just going to spot weld it with the MIG and just put a few tacks, make it real simple. Now that that's done, and if we had, say, our scrap piece, rather than kind of holding it, now we're just sort of letting the machine do the work. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut this on the line here that I got, and then I'm going to cut one of these, and we're going to try and figure out the best way to put these all back together somehow. All right, so we've obviously transferred our lines onto the sheet of steel that we have here. And I always leave a little bit of excess if I'm getting really close to the edge with a bead roll. It just kind of helps with, you know, if that's my original line, I've added that. I can cut it off afterwards, but it just really helps to try and get it sort of, you know, fitting a little bit better and kind of traveling through the bead roller and your impressions and that. But really, I'm kind of ready to just give it shit and see what happens. So let's go roll this one, and then we'll see what happens. Alrighty then. All right, so we're gonna bring her down. We make contact. Already got a massive shadow I want to try and get rid of. Okay, so 1, 2.5. Before I start, there's a lot of things about like pre-stretching, and it does work. If you got a planishing hammer, put it on your highest crown and run areas. I'm pretty sure Mike Wagner at Cornfield Customs, unbelievable fabricator. He does a very good tutorial on how much you need to stretch for certain beads. And there is a little bit of math to it, but once you get it figured out, it's really nice, and you can basically get a dead flat panel. I think I should be okay with these ones here. You know, we are gonna have to manipulate them a little bit anyway, so fingers crossed, we should be all right, but yeah. And again, when doing bead rolling, tons of guys do it differently, but I really like to kind of start, you know, not right in the middle somewhere, kind of over towards a corner, but still allowing enough space to finish your corner and kind of find your line again. And then you do want to go sort of past where you've started, at least say an inch or so, just to try and blend those lines in. And yeah, sometimes they don't always line up perfectly, but other times if you can sort of not get cross-eyed like you tend to, it'll be okay. All right, here we go. We're not trying to force or push anything either. We're just sort of letting the machine do the job. We're just trying to obviously guide the sheet in as nice as we possibly can. So we're approaching a corner now. I can kind of stop without moving anything and sort of readjust where I'm gonna have to pull from. So I just want to make sure I'm gonna be on the right spot. I'm already going cross-eyed too. There's so many shadows here. That's probably a bit better. So let's see how close we are. I kind of feel like I was off just a little bit. But that's all right. Oh no, that's okay. So we can kind of fudge that. We could even just put it back here, set it down and run another one through, but I'm happy with the consistency of all that. That looks pretty good. So you can kind of obviously understand what we're trying to do. And you can see the bottom side looks really neat. And it does kind of have a little bit of distortion in it already. So we are stretching the material, but I think once we have it all flat and down, we should be okay. But I really like the reduction that Carl had put on this bead roller when he originally had it. It's a nice speed. It's not really, really slow, but it's also not really fast where you sort of panic in your corners.
Last night he shook my hand in the end and said, "You ain't got me losing. What you gonna do about it?" I'm gonna hit that bottom. It's on a donkey kong. Next week he asked, which troubles do you seek? A pure heart is the root of all weak. I bowed my head and hid my eyes, but he shook me out of my disguise and said, "You ain't gonna lose me. What you gonna do about it?" I'm gonna hit the bottom. It's all a Donkey Kong.
Before I start, excuse the grinding if you can hear it. Oh, they may have stopped. Boys next door, real noisy today. So a couple things. Obviously, because the throat depth on that bead roller is kind of hinders how much you can do. Looking at this, I almost think it would have been possible in a way to get it done in one piece in the bead roller. We kind of did test it with the paper and it looked like everything was going to hit, but there are ways to sort of to work around it. So maybe, just maybe, we could have done it and it would have worked. What we're gonna do is I've just got these pieces of steel on either side. They're just kind of keeping everything flat. As you can see, when I mentioned about pre-stretching these areas, if you don't do it, you kind of get a bit of distortion. The distortion, very similar to this. You can kind of see where that's obviously sitting quite high and that's sitting quite low. So when I go to weld this, and you know, I kind of wanted to butt weld this and you know, kind of run it through the planishing hammer and try and smooth it all out. It's going to be pretty tricky for sure because there's a lot of sort of metal in this area that can kind of float and want to get that sort of tin can effect. So it's going to be a little bit hard to get out, but we can, with, you know, shrinking methods and stuff like that, be able to tighten it up. So what I want to do is I may even just drill a few holes through down in this and cleco it into place, and then we can lift this whole thing off, take it over to the table, lay it down, scribe it, trim it, and then we're going to try and butt weld it together and make sure our sort of beads line up. We can kind of go back over them and sort of trace through with the bead roller just to get them nice and even again once it's welded and we've kind of removed all the weld itself. But yeah, I'm happy with the way this is turning out. This is a great little section here that we can kind of work front to back and yeah, make it into something. Okay, if you guys could just magically adhere together with no distortion, that'd be perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Going to be a hard butt weld. Yeah. So I just got the planishing hammer set up with the sort of flattest die in there, and I'm just gonna work those tack welds just a little bit. I don't want to put too much pressure in or stretch anything. I'm just trying to flatten them out just a little. And once that's done, then we'll mock it up and see what it looks like. All right, so I got it all butt welded, or sorry, just tacked into place, kind of fitting it. I really like the way it's coming out. Everything lines up. I was kind of lucky enough where my beads were really, really close, and I just kind of jumped back over and just sort of traced over the same line again, just to make sure that everything was going to line up really nicely. But I think once I weld it through, planish it out, you know, obviously there's going to be a bit of distortion right here. There's like a fair bit of material that kind of wants to go somewhere, so I can shrink that after it's welded, and we should be able to get that nice and straight again. But obviously it's going to have that little bit of tinning effect because I didn't pre-stretch these bead rolls. But once the whole floor is laid out and kind of bolted down and everything's fixed into place where we want it, it should be okay. And then we can kind of continue to work. And again, there's a bit of material in here, so after I weld that and you know, grind it and finish it and everything, I will end up most likely doing kind of a large X through here, or maybe kind of doing 2 X's, and then I can sort of put that into the back as well and do a few bead rolls. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. I think this is a great turning point to sort of doing the original sort of cutting and splicing of that sub rail. Not that that's a bad option, but I think this way just is going to look a lot nicer. It's going to finish it off. You know, it's going to look like it's supposed to be there. It'd be great to just have the whole floor completely finished, rolled edge over, 90-degree out, exactly where we want the body to sort of sit and where the channeling is going to happen. And then everything will be kind of nice and square, and then we can take the body, sort of, you know, obviously add some structural points in there, cut the original subframe or what's left of it out, and then we can kind of lay it over top and hopefully get a really nice idea where this is going to sit. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It was pretty neat to sort of kind of take a different turn, and then, you know, do our cardboard or paper template, sorry, and then apply it to you know, the first portion of the floor. So I think this is going to come out really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, like, subscribe, hit that notifications, and we'll see you next week on another episode.